Yeah. So one thing I learned early on when I was a GA was Overland called it the 10-minute rule, right? Like you just take 10 minutes of your day, pre, post, lift, whatever, and just talk to an athlete. Like it doesn't have to be. It could be about whatever. It could be about the game. It could be about lift. It could be about their habits to make them better, or just them. Like get to know them, right? Like we got 39 guys in the team. I think I give out 39 fist bumps or high fives right before practice starts, just to this way they kind of see me before I start saying, hey, here we go, 90-90. Let's get warmed up, right? I mean, it just takes time, like anything. Like if you invest in your players, they're going to invest back in you, and then you're going to get a better product in the weight room. And then if you get a better product in the weight room, hopefully it translates out into the field.
What's going on, Samson Strength Coach Collective listeners? On today's episode, we have Michael Tucker, strength and conditioning coach for baseball and men's tennis at Liberty University. Michael, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, no, absolutely. You've got a powerful name here. We were just talking about this pre-show. There's another Michael Tucker within strength and conditioning. Maybe you two are meant to be in this path.
Yeah, well, when a couple of years ago, he reached out to me just like a cold DM and said, "Hey, nice name." That was our first communication ever.
That's awesome. Has there ever been any confusion? Like people reach out to you thinking that you're him?
No.
Okay, thank goodness.
But there was one time, like one of my bosses at a different job, he was trying to talk about like the sprint timber warm up, and he goes, "Yeah, that the guy who wrote sprint timber is the good warm up. What's his name? And I was like me?
Me?
Goes, no, not you, but not you. So
that's awesome. Yeah, luckily there's no other Connor Agnews. There's one soccer player, but we look very different. So I've never had to deal with the confusion piece, which is always nice.
Well, I do have there's a baseball player from the late '90s named Michael Tucker. He played for the Royals and the Braves. So
look at that. There you go. So you're a professional baseball player. You started Sprint Timber, and now you are a Liberty strength coach. That's awesome.
Yes, full circle.
There you go. All right. Well, can you just break it down for us, your past career, and then what's brought you to your current position?
Yeah. So when I graduated undergrad, I actually did my first internship here at Liberty. I did it on the football side, and all that stuff is not here anymore. But so that was my first intro to strength and conditioning with Dom Stasinski, who's now at Auburn. So it was there for the summer of 2019, and I really wanted to get into baseball. So I interned with Zach Dakin and that staff down at Texas Christian University. And then right before, in 2020, I did my graduate assistantship at Concordia St. Paul for just under 2 years. It was a D2 program in St. Paul, Minnesota. And then my first full-time job, I was an assistant at Bridgewater College, Division III, about 2 hours from here in Virginia. Worked there for 3 years, one as the assistant and then 2 years as the director at Bridgewater. And then in Bridgewater, we actually didn't work in the summers. Like June and July off, like get out,
Wow.
see you never. Yeah. So that was interesting. So I was able to do an internship with James Madison football. So I did that for the summer of 22, became the director at Bridgewater. And then I got the opportunity here at Liberty on the Olympic side with baseball and men's tennis.
That's awesome. Where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up?
I'm from Virginia, which helps.
Virginia?
About
Okay.
2 hours north of here, 1 hour south of D.C.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm always curious about this too, because it was advice that I was given early on in my career. And I do think it kind of rings true is being willing to move a lot initially in your career, at the start of your career, to help build connections. Like I started off, I was in Philly, then Knoxville, then Lubbock, and then Florham Park, wherever it was, right? We moved around a lot in the beginning of my career. Like what made you okay with that, with your different positions? How were you able to kind of say that you were fine with doing that? Because that's something I noticed with our GAs who are graduating now. Like they're kind of like, well, I want to stay in North Carolina. And I'm like, well, there's a finite amount of jobs in North Carolina.
So like the big thing for me is I just wanted it. I just wanted to be a full-time strength and conditioning coach, like really, really badly. Like I know there's other opportunities I could have explored, other things that I was good at, but like I didn't care. Like I really want to be a strength and conditioning coach. Like when I was like 20, 21, 22, I was like, oh, that's the coolest job in the world. You get to you just get to scream your face off all day, which is, not true. But so I just like I said, I just really wanted it. And then when I was looking at the Texas, like the internship at TCU and the GEA and in Minnesota, and like they looked like really really good opportunities. These looked like really good opportunities for me. So I mean, just kind of packed up and moved halfway across the country. It was really easy. I didn't have a couch. I didn't own any furniture. Didn't have any pets.
There
So
you go.
but
Yeah.
the one struggle is I did have a long distance girlfriend who I ended up marrying this past September. So
Well, there
it
you
all
go.
worked out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so funny too, because it's the ones who move are just very casual about it, right? Like
Yeah.
early on in their career, like it's the same with me. It's just like people are always like, "Oh, did you always want to go to Tennessee?" And I was like, "No." And
Yeah.
then they're like, "Oh, so Texas Tech was a dream job." And I was like, "It was awesome, but it wasn't my dream job." It's just like
Yeah.
I'm okay with moving and I'm okay with kind of undergoing that process because I knew it was going to get better. Now I'm just curious. I'm asking this for myself selfishly. Like, how long were you guys long distance for?
Um. So long time. When we first started dating, I transferred schools out of my undergrad because
Yeah.
I was at a community college, and then I went to Southern Virginia or Old Dominion, like in Southern Virginia. So from the start, from 2017 to 2021, like
Wow. four
yeah,
years long distance?
like more like 4.5, but yeah,
Oh my goodness, that's insane.
yeah. So we started dating when we were 19, and then we moved in together when we were 23,
And now you guys are
24,
married.
and now we're married.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
I'm using your story now every time because
yeah,
the significant other is almost always one of the limiting factors too. That's what I've noticed is like, well, I don't really know if I want to be long distance or anything. And I was long distance with my fiance for a year and a half.
yeah,
And it's just so funny because I'm like, it's almost like middle school relationships or something too,
yes,
right? It's like if you guys can't figure it out, then I promise you, it's probably not your life partner.
right. No,
Like it's gonna work out with that person for a reason.
yeah. I mean, it's if you want something, you'll find a way. Like I wanted, the love of my life. I wanted that. Be a strength coach. I wanted it both. I found a way to get both done. So
That's awesome. And what does your wife do?
she is an international banker, and she works from home, which helps.
Oh, that's awesome.
Helps in both regards.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's absolutely incredible. That's awesome. Do you have any
Yeah.
pets now?
She has two cats,
There you go. That's
and
awesome. So
she's like, oh, they're cute. I'm like, sure. I'm just not a big cat guy. I mean, they're there. We coexist in peace.
there you go. That's all you have to do. But it's funny too. The only reason I ask that stuff is because it's always like whatever safeguards we kind of had up as younger strength coaches, of like, all right, I don't have any pets, I don't really hold on to that much stuff. I make it easy for myself to be able to move. All of a sudden you start getting older and then all
Yeah.
those things start popping up pretty quickly.
Like I had a 2013 Kia Rio, so it's like it's like a one step up from Prius at the time.
Yeah.
Right. So like the car was about as big as this office, maybe even smaller. But I moved from Virginia to Texas, back to Virginia, then to Minnesota, all in that car.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've got my Highlander. That's what I use too. And the most devastating story of my life is I somehow inherited like this 65-inch TV that was like my pride and joy. I loved it to death, and like that's like my one thing is like I love TVs. Like I love having big TVs because I'm blind and I just will not go to the eye doctor whatsoever. And so like the bigger the TV, the better, right? And so I remember moving down from this time was Florham Park to Knoxville. And I had that TV in the back, and it was the only thing I brought with me. And then it somehow broke on the way during that drive. So when I plugged it in, yes, I noticed it was broken. And I swear that was the closest I've ever been to like just pure sobbing. I like literally shed a few tears. I was like, no, this is the only thing I care about. And now it's broken. So the Highlander has not been so good to me in moves, but it's part of the process. There's certain sacrifices you have to make.
Yeah, like you just talk about sacrifices. When I first moved to Minneapolis, it's like Minneapolis, St. Paul, right there. I lived in this basement with 4 bedrooms and like this tiny living room, and I was one of 3. Like 4 of us lived there. It was me, Dante, and then 2 60-year-old women.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Like you walk down the stairs, like this kitchen is the size of like I guess 2, like maybe 3 squat racks pushed together for your strength coaches out there to see that, to visualize that. But yeah,
wow.
the 4 of us lived together, and I was a GA too. Like, I'm just gonna do my homework at home or homework in the office. go to sleep, and
Yeah,
then wake
yeah.
up and come right back. Man, I did not like
That's a
that.
crash pad at that point. There's
Oh
no
yeah,
way I'm doing
absolutely.
anything else. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this too, because it's all the motivation piece is always very interesting to me. Like, how did you stay motivated in that moment? Like, I know you said that you knew you wanted it, and so it
Yeah.
just had to get done. But there's definitely days that are difficult and they're hard to keep going. Like, what did you rely on to keep you going and understand that there's a greater goal at the end of this?
Well, it kind of really started when I was an intern, like intern grinds, whatever. But when I was a GA, like I was just really happy to be there almost every day, right? Division 2, so you didn't really do anything too much on the weekends. Like I went up to the games and stuff like that, like the baseball games, softball games, and the entire 2 years I was there was not one football game because of COVID, and I
Oh wow.
left right before the season of 2021 started. So I was there for like a year and plus, but yeah, you get it. So, but like I just really liked being there, and I really enjoyed the staff I was on. It was me, Eric Overland was the director, and then Greg Robinson, and then one of our interns, Ted Elsner. Like the four of us, like we just got along really well, and we were an interesting dynamic of a group of four humans you would never see. But no, like I said, just really enjoyed being there. And even when I got to Bridgewater, like when I got hired by Devin Young, like again, same thing. I just enjoyed working for him. Like and like most of the players are great, most of the sport coaches were great. So like I just always felt like happy going to
Yes.
work. Like even here, like it's a completely different dynamic than from what I had at my Division 3 job these past 3 years. Like I just enjoy coming to work every day.
That's awesome. So it's just the pure joy of being a strength coach that keeps you going.
Yeah, that and but more important than that is good people.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, people can certainly make or break every single situation, and that's
Oh yeah.
where, people will always ask me like, okay, what's the next step? Like you're at App State as as the basketball strength coach. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm just enjoying my time right now because, especially within basketball, like your head coach is the one who makes or breaks your job. Like they're the
Yeah.
one who really ultimately determines like how much fun it is to be at work every single day. And luckily, I'm with a head coach who makes it a lot of fun and gives me a ton of autonomy. Like the only thing he's ever told me about the weight room was he wants guys wearing shoes. And I'm like, look, if that's the one thing you care about, then we'll wear shoes. I don't really care, man.
Yeah.
So those people can really, truly, either determine the happiness or the longevity of your career. It's crazy how much that can affect what you want to do.
Yeah. No, it's huge.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious too, you mentioned working with football and then switching to baseball and then
Yeah.
actually coming back up working with football again over at James Madison and then ultimately ending up with baseball. What was, kind of your thought process in working amongst those sports and then what
Mhm.
really drew you to baseball specifically?
Yeah, so I actually had football every job and internship of my
Oh, okay.
career.
Okay.
Yeah, so TCU had one weight room, all sports. I know they're
Yes.
making some changes now, but like it was a massive 20 rack downstairs, like maybe 14 to 16 racks upstairs, but it was one weight room, everybody, everything.
Yeah.
So,
Incredible.
but yeah, what drew me to baseball? Like I played baseball growing up. I didn't play at any high level. Just the skill wasn't there. I tried really hard, but the skill development and the skill acquisition of baseball was not there. So, but I knew I always watched baseball. I try to play. I try to play like a slow pitch softball nowadays and stuff like that. But like I always just loved the sport and the game of baseball. Like even being baseball, like two sports now, like just two. I'm able to be at baseball practice and games more often than
Yep.
I was. Like I'm just learning so much more about the game, like from
And
our practices and our game reviews and stuff like that.
that part's so exciting, right?
Yeah,
Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, same with me with basketball. Like, I suck. I'm so bad at basketball, and like, but I always loved the sport. I grew up in Syracuse, so that's
Oh
like
yeah.
especially right around the time that Carmelo Anthony was there, and they won the national championship. Like, those things are incredibly exciting, and they were really good. And I literally remember they would shut class down for the Big East tournament at the time. Like they would
Oh
wheel in
wow.
TVs. Every single classroom had a TV in it, and we'd watch the Big East tournament. Like so, I grew up loving basketball, and I sucked at it so much that I was like, all right, this is obviously not for me, and I kind of fell off of it. But then when I got back into it as a strength and conditioning coach, the first year for me, it was more about like, all right, my head's on fire. I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to do as a coach because I haven't really worked with basketball before. But then over the next 3, 4, 5 years, it's been so much fun to just fall in love with the sport. I'm sure it's the same with you with baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, absolutely.
What are some things that have surprised you about working with baseball?
So in terms of like how I program with baseball and stuff like that, like like the energy systems development, like none of that's really changed from like, well, like everything always changed, but like nothing like shocked the world there. But I guess the big thing for baseball, like for me, is just like the small little intricacies of the game, like where your cuts are supposed to be, like what you're supposed to do in certain base running situations, less than 2 outs. You got the corners, like you run the plays like that, and like what you're going to run if somebody steals, they do a delay or whatever,
Mm,
and then what qualifies as a quality at bat, even if you get out. Right,
mm,
obviously a hard hit, if they rob a homer, like all right, you put a good swing on it, like you had a great at bat. Just once it like look rather the Corey always says, once it leaves the barrel, you can't control it. Always take your best swing.
mm.
So, and then just stuff like that. It's just like really cool to me. Like, well, I'll never get in and face 95 ever, but,
Yeah, exactly right. And I'm never going to have to go up against a 7-foot big man. Those things are nice for me too. And so now baseball to me as an outsider does seem to be one of the most stat driven sports I've ever seen.
yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm glad I was accurate on that one. Like, how do you, especially in our profession where we deal with a lot of numbers, kind of stay clear headed, especially with testing and understanding? Not only does, because most of the numbers that I see related to basketball are going to be, okay, force plate,
Yeah.
it'll be GPS, or it'll be, NORD board, things like that. Whereas
Yeah.
baseball, there's a ton of technologies that are related to the sport as well, too. Like, how do you keep yourself clear headed and how do you keep your athletes clear headed when there's all these numbers getting thrown at them all the time?
So when it comes to like my numbers, like the things I take, like you said, the force plate, and we use Brower for sprints. Um, I just kind of share with them like that day's data and only the things that are important. Like Hawkins
Mm,
has so many things on their force plates, A to Z, right? So what I'll do in the weight room is I'll put a live leaderboard for jump height,
nice.
and it'll be on the TV screen, and then they'll start competing. Like the first day I did that, I think I had of 39 guys, I think I had like 20 PRs in jump inches. Like
Wow.
yeah, and it's kind of like tailed off and flattened out because I've been doing it every day. But like the first day, I was like, no, there ain't no way you jump higher than me. Like, and then they come back and do another jump and jump 3 inches higher. So I was like, all right, why didn't you just try it the first time?
Yep. Yep. So
But
go
but
ahead. Sorry.
no, I was gonna say but the numbers they get, like the TrackMan stuff, and like the exit velo, like we have that up on our scoreboard in practice. So if you hit a ball 106, like you're gonna know you and everybody else can know you hit a ball 106. Like the same thing, like if you hit a weak line drive 75, like everybody's gonna know that like that wasn't your best swing, that wasn't your best contact, that wasn't your best barrel.
Mm,
So and then on the pitching side too, like the miles an hour is always up during practice, nine
wow.
times out of 10. So how I kind of keep them clear headed for my stuff is like I only show them the things that are important, that they can understand and that are somewhat important, right? So we'll do sprint speeds. I'll post those in the group chat or the group me every week or twice a week, however often we do it. Same thing with the jump heights. Once the leaderboard's over, like even if we have two different groups, I'll post everybody so they can say who won, who lost, who needs to get better. But then when it comes to the baseball stats, I don't do too much with it, right? Because I'm not a baseball coach.
Yeah.
Like I know some things. I know 100 miles an hour is good, but but we like I tried to have one of my players explain to me induced vertical, and then he just starts talking. It's like, wait, so if it's zero, does the ball mean it's going up? And he goes, yes, okay. And then that's the one thing I got right.
There you
So
go. Well, I think it's so interesting. I mean, especially to be kind of surrounded by these numbers, but I'm glad to hear the leaderboard was such a game changer for you because to me, that's almost always been one of the things that, like, when somebody tries to sell me a technology, they're like, well, we have the leaderboard too. And I'm like, I don't really care about the leaderboard,
yeah,
because for me, as myself, as a coach, I'm like, well, ultimately they should be trying to compete all the time. Right. But it's made a big difference for you.
yeah, like in reality they should. Should we try to compete
Yeah.
all the time?
Yeah.
But like their favorite thing in the world isn't putting their hands on their hips and jumping in place. Like their favorite thing is to swing a bat
Yeah.
or throw a pitch, or in your case, play pickup all the time.
Exactly. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad it makes such a big difference. Well, you mentioned something very interesting early on, and I want to definitely go back to it. You said that, the people ultimately make the profession.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of strength coaches can really identify with that statement. I mean, I certainly can myself. Like, when I think about the best parts of my job, like you said, like it's cool to be able to be a rah guy, and it's great
Hmm.
that I'm, wearing a t-shirt and shorts today, and I get to work out whenever I want. But like ultimately, what keeps me in it is the relationships that I develop with people. Like, how important is the relationship aspect to you, and how do you go about building relationships with your athletes?
I've heard this cliche on every podcast that I ever listened to when they bring up this topic, and I'm still going to say it. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Well, it's true. It's
Yeah,
true.
I know it's true. That's why it keeps getting repeated, recycled, and reused. So, but yeah, I've heard that 100 different times on 100 different podcasts from 100 different people, and like you said, it's true. So, like, it's just an important value. Like, you could be the worst programmer, worst technique adjuster, coach in the world, but as long as your communication skills and your relationships are good with your players and your coaches, they're going to see value to a certain extent in what you're doing, right? Like, there was like, I mean, I've said that's true with most professions. As long as you're getting some sort of result, right? I mean, you have to be good at the job to a certain extent. You can't know nothing, come in here and then like get everybody gets hurt. Everybody's got tendonitis in their knees. You got 18 pulled hamstrings, right? Like, it's like, hey, what are we doing? But like, you have to have some skill to be, to get to any level of this job of being paid. But like I said, the relationships are insanely important.
Yeah.
Insanely important.
And so how do you, with placing such importance on it, like you said, like they have to know that you care. Like, what are the ways that you do that with your athletes, and how do you really go about developing those relationships so that they make the difference for you?
Yeah. So one thing I learned early on when I was a GA was Overland called it the 10-minute rule, right? Like, you just take 10 minutes of your day, pre, post, lift, whatever, and just talk to an athlete. Like, it doesn't have to be. It can be about whatever. It could be about the game. It could be about lift. It could be about their habits to make them better, or just them. Like, get to know them, right? Like, we got 39 guys in the team. I think I give out 39 fist bumps or high fives right before practice starts, just to this way they kind of see me before I start saying, hey, here we go, 90-90. Let's get warmed up, right? I mean, it just takes time, like anything. Like, if you invest in your players, they're going to invest back in you, and then you're going to get a better product in the weight room. And then if you get a better product in the weight room, hopefully it translates out into the field. When it comes to all the stuff we do.
Yeah.
But like, the short answer is just take the time.
Yeah.
Take the time to do it.
And how do you stay intentional with that too? Because like, one of the things that, I heard another strength coach say recently in a group that we were in was, we're talking about pre-lift time, and like how most of the time I will be in my office, and like guys will come in for a lift, and a lot of them will come back to me and say, what's up, and like we'll kind of, talk a little bit. But with my women's golf team, like they never come back to the office, right? They will never be there. Because I think they might be scared a little bit. They might be a little nervous to come talk to me or whatever it is. And so I ultimately miss that time with them, like on days when you're kind of feeling a little bit of lack of motivation, how do you actually go out and make sure that you spend that time of the 10-minute rule?
So that's a good question. I mean, when you think about things like, I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about like idle time. Right. So if you're always busy, like, or if you're not busy and you have like time to just relax, like, that's great. That's very important. But if your time is slower, like, I guess the month of May for basketball would be like, I guess this time of year for you.
This is it.
Like,
it's as slow as it gets, I promise you.
Yeah, if you're not that busy and you're just kind of chilling and relaxing all the time, like, you're doing a lot of scrolling and relaxing, and like, it's easy to get like relaxed and not think about it. But like, for me, like, when I'm busy, it seems to be like when I'm the most intentional. If that makes any sense, because I know like kind of being by yourself, it's just kind of like weird, right? So what makes it easy for me is like, whenever people come in, like, I saw them for the first time today, right? That may be my 8th hour in the weight room, but it's there first. So I mean, I don't know, it's just kind of one of those things. It's kind of like hard to figure out, if that makes sense.
No, I totally understand, but I think you bring up a great point there too, because as strength coaches, there's always an expectation that like you're the hype guy, right?
Yeah.
Or like you're the one who can get people excited. But I mean, when we're in season with basketball, and I have a 6 a.m. lift with women's golf the next morning after a game day, we're there till 9:30, and then we've got to get the guys excited for a lift at 2:30, right? My hype is not necessarily there, but I think that's a great perspective for them. Is like, okay, well, these guys, kind of rely on my energy a little bit to have a quality lift, and they kind of expect it a little bit too. So
Yeah.
that's what I signed up for with the job.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
was kind of experiencing that like at my last position because we had 10 racks and 600 athletes and 2 full-time staff members.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a bunch of stuff. Like my first group was at 6, my last group was at 3:30, and it was almost every hour on the hour pretty much all day.
Oh my goodness. That's
Yeah.
nuts. How did you keep your energy up?
So my first day, like I did every group, even if I wasn't on my team, just to like get acclimated with everybody on campus.
Yeah.
And I was the most tired I think I've ever been after that first day. It was September 6th, 2021. It was
Yeah.
a
You,
Monday.
you were definitely most tired because you
Yeah.
remember the specific date. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was there. I got there an hour before the first group. So I got there at 5 a.m. And then I stayed all the way to the end of the day, which was that day was 7 p.m. That particular day. That was a
Wow.
long day. Yeah. Um, but when I was at that job, right, once I got a couple months in, I learned to pace myself. So, which kind of sounds crappy because not everybody was getting 100%. Not everybody was getting 100% of me, which I did feel bad about, but everybody was getting, like 80% of me, if that makes sense,
Mm.
which is unfortunate because I had to spread myself thin because like myself, I had 300 players. I had football, like the biggest team football, all the way down to the smallest team equestrian, which had six women on it. So, but now that I'm here, when I have 49 total athletes across both my teams, I'm able to give 100% to both groups to both teams, right? Which is good.
Yeah.
Like so I was able to pace myself, and then I started doing that. And at the end of the day, like my first week or so here, I'm like, oh, this is easy. Like I was able to kind of like reset a little bit, which was really nice getting into this situation here at Liberty. So
Well, I don't even know. I wouldn't call it unfair. I don't think. I think what would be unfair is if you gave one group 100% and then you gave another group 15%, right?
yeah,
Because you were tapped out on energy from there. I think it's ultimately if you have, if you can give 100% of your 80%, right? And we can get into
yes,
the what is it, like the anchor man, like it works 60% of the time, works 100% of the time or whatever,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
right. But ultimately, like if you can give everybody the same level of energy, then that to me is what your true 100% is. So I love the pacing aspect because that's what really makes a difference is like, okay, how can I make sure I can be as consistent as possible too? And every strength coach isn't the energy guy, but they should be
yeah.
consistent with how they approach the weight room every day. There shouldn't be days where they're super hyped and then super low. So I love your approach. I think the pacing aspect worked well.
You were talking about the energy guy, right? So like when I was like one of my first internships, right? The first day, I just kind of like laid back, did exactly what I was told to, and I got pulled into the office by one of the GAs, and he says, "Hey, like we need you guys in there coaching," and we're like,
Yep.
"All right." So, and again, this is 21-year-old, Tuck. I turn the switch on, and as soon as they come in, I'm screaming, yelling, jumping up and down. And then one of the full-time coaches is like, what I heard him say to somebody else, like, man, this kid's full of piss and vinegar right now. What happened?
That's awesome, but I'm sure you were his favorite guy because you were the one bringing the juice every day.
Yeah, so that coach told me to turn it up, and then this coach said, "Hey, just give me 90% of that." I'm like, "All
Yeah,
right, got
yeah.
it."
Or 80%. And
Yeah,
then
80%.
as you knew 100%. Yeah.
Now it's been
Uh,
a couple of years. I kind of found like the sweet spot.
yeah, I think that's so natural for every strength coach because I was the exact same way too. But it was funny because you made me think of another internship I had, and while we were interning there, I had already been there for 6 months, and then a new batch of interns come in, right? And so they were asking me what everybody likes, and I just told them the same thing, like be energetic, make sure you're actually coaching. And so then we were doing half gassers that day, and
Mm-hmm.
the whole team's running them, and then a couple guys end up like throwing up, and so then one of the interns like he screams out, I don't know what possessed him to say this, he screams out, he's like, "Run till you puke, boys," like, and he's like 19, like, and everything, and like every strength coach was like, "Shut the up," like, "Shut up," and like screaming at him and everything, and he was like, "Oh my god." And he came up to me and he was like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to," because like my job was to like coach these new interns up. He's like, "I didn't mean to embarrass you." I was like, "No, dude, that one was on me because I
Yeah.
clearly didn't know you, and I expected you to kind of have this under control, but you just said the most ridiculous stuff ever, and horrible. And like, if anybody outside of the program ever heard that, like, it's like immediately like, okay, these guys are terrible, and this is
Yes.
abuse within the program or whatever."
Investigation. Here we go.
Exactly, right. And so I was like, no, man, that's my bad. It was a quick lesson for me too. It was good to learn. So,
Yeah, we called that releasing demons at one of my previous stops.
oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly, right. It's certainly what it is. I like that term. That's great.
Yes, releasing demons, not puking. So
Not puking. There you go. Release the demons. I love it. And so again, the relationship aspect is so important, but I think there's always people on teams that, you may not get along with the most, right? You
oh
always
yeah.
get along with everybody, but there's people who kind of struggle, and, kind of to build that rapport with and understand where they're coming from. Like, how do you approach that process when it's not going the exact way that you want it to from a relationship development standpoint?
Yeah, so part of that is just feel. And then 80% again, here we go. There's this 10 80 10 rule that I was taught. Like 10% of your guys are going to love you. They will fight for you. They would do anything for you, anything you ask them to do. 80% will do it, and they won't care if it's you or somebody else next week, right? Now they'll miss you, they'll say bye, but like whatever, you move on. And the 10%, like and then you get the bottom 10%. You're just like, all right, let's get like I'm done, like stuff like that, right? And that's true in most situations. So what was the question again? Hold on, I was going somewhere with that.
No, all good. Just just how do you actually work with your athletes when it's tough to build that relationship? That bottom 10%.
Yes, yeah. So like I said, knowing who your guys are, and knowing who like which category they kind of fall into, right? And then sometimes like if you're struggling to build a relationship, like you have a relationship with everybody, whether it's good or bad or neutral, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it takes a little bit more time to be built up. Like sometimes you need more than just the 10-minute rule I was talking about earlier. More than just the 10-minute rule I was talking about earlier. You just got to invest a little bit more. And sometimes they don't come around. Like you're 1 versus 40, or in football it's 1 versus 120, right? Like so it's not always going to happen. Like this is like not everybody's going to like you. It is what it is. But I mean, as long as they're coming in and doing exactly what you asked them to do in the weight room, on the field, like whatever you're doing, like you're good as long as you're getting the results, right? But it's just like I said, not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay. That is a-okay. So, I mean,
I think it can make it. I think it makes it even worse sometimes when you try to force that relationship even more. Like the most success I've had in those situations is honestly just giving the athlete space. Like, all right, I know you don't really like me and you're kind of pissed off at me right now, so I'm not going to say anything to you for the next couple hours or days or whatever it may be, because you just need some room to breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I love that rule, the 10-80-10, because I think it's very true. When you said that, there were specific guys I was thinking of on my team. I'm like, that's one of the 10, 10%. And then I know some guys were the 80. I know some guys were in the bottom 10% too. And I love the perspective on relationships there too. Like you always have a relationship with somebody. So how do you turn it into more of a positive relationship? And a positive relationship with one person doesn't look the same as a positive relationship with another.
No, absolutely. Like not everybody's the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So relationships are a big piece of it. What are your other core principles as a coach? What are the things that you really hang your hat on or really believe in as a coach?
Well, like kind of alluded to earlier, is like being good at the job, being good at the profession, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you do need to get in the door somehow. You can't just like come in, start doing everybody on CrossFit or whatever, and then cross your fingers, hope they get better, right? You can't do that. So you got to be good. You got to be good at the position. The other thing is for me is loyalty, right? So like especially like if you're loyal to your players, they'd be loyal to you, like whether they're here for 1 or 5 years, right? Because like either they'll move on, or in some situations I'll move on. Like my longest job was 3 years. That's not even a 4-year career, right? So like even in the time that you're there with them, you got to be loyal to them, because you're doing the best to help put them in the best position to win as many games as possible. So as long as you got to be loyal to them, get loyal to the staff, the sports staff, and if you report to a strength coach, right, as a strength staff, you got to be loyal to them too. Because if push comes to shove, and they got to have your back, and you weren't loyal to them, like that's gonna be tough. It's gonna be real tough. So those two are hugely important to me. If I had to pick two, it's those two right there.
Yeah. And so, okay, in today's day and age with the transfer portal and, I wouldn't even say lack of loyalty. I just think it's the system itself is set up for people to explore other opportunities very quickly. right?
Mhm.
But the loyalty aspect is huge. Like even if, like you said, somebody's with you for a year, they have to know that you have their best interests at heart and that you want to see them succeed as much as possible.
Right.
What are some ways that you really try to exemplify that loyalty for the athletes, and then how do you do it with your coaches too?
Yeah. So like for the athletes, like not for me in this situation, but in some situations, like if you lose, you get fired, right? Even
Hmm.
if like you, everybody's heard all that. So like for them, like winning is the most important thing for anybody and everything all the time. So if you kind of relate everything back to winning, and like that'll be huge. So like that's where the loyalty kind of comes into play here, right? So like if you're like if the coach is in the situation like all right, I'm only gonna be here for 3 more months, just kind of do whatever, right? It's like no, like 3 more months, that's a big chunk of the season, right?
Hmm.
Like let's keep doing the job, let's keep doing things right, let's keep tracking our metrics, making sure everything's good, so we can be in a position to win,
Hmm.
right? And the same thing for the coaches too, right? If I were to this is first year, I don't plan on going anywhere next year, but um like if it was like I'll come and it's like, hey, coach, I'm leaving at the end of the year, whatever. Like I still want to finish out the year strong,
Hmm.
so we can do our best to win as many games as possible, right? That's always the goal. So like that's how loyalty kind of ties into that. Being loyal to them, not kind of just like, all right, I'm getting ready for the next thing. I'm just going to put this to the side right now. Like even
Hmm.
when I left my last two jobs, I left as much programming as I could for the either the new guy coming in or the guy taking over for me in the time being, right? I kind of wrote out the entire semester for my teams at Bridgewater before I left all the way to December. And
Yep.
then the same thing when I was in Minnesota, I kind of left all the way until the next hiring window for the next person coming in. So this way they can just have the programs and just kind of, keep rolling through the programs. So being loyal to them in that sense.
Yeah. And I think being loyal to the university too is, like you said, like just trying to leave it better than you found it.
Yes, absolutely.
Like I'll never forget when I first walked into this weight room, I was like almost appalled at how cluttered it was,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like I was just like, how do you guys operate on this on a daily basis? So now we've set up a system where every single day the racks have to be reset. Every single day that it has to be cleaned. The dumbbells have to be up, whatever it may be, right? But I think that it ultimately makes a difference. And then, okay, well, I really want this technology. So what can we do to get this technology in here too, right?
Yeah.
And then letting other people, because I mean, look, trust me, I would love to sit here and say I'm going to be App State basketball strength coach for the rest of my career. There's probably going to be either one, I get fired, or a better opportunity comes along if we're being 100% realistic. So how do you stay loyal to university too? Is just trying to make it better than you found it.
Right. No.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. I can't say it any better than that.
There you go. Excellent. Okay. And so then, you mentioned a couple podcasts and you mentioned,
Mhm.
basically your continuing education piece, but you have to be good at the job. Like, what
Yeah.
are some things as you kind of get into, all right, you're past the stage of your career where it's first full-time jobs,
Mhm.
now it's okay. I'm still a young strength coach, but I'm trying to find ways to continually get better. How do you undergo that process? What are the things that you look to do?
Recently, since I got in the last 6 months or 8 months. Oh wow, time plus. 8 months since I got here. I've been talking to just the coaches on staff. Right, my last
Mm.
staff it was me and an assistant. That's it, just the two of us. Right, so there's only so much you and him could talk about unless something else pops up. Shout out Rob Gardner. Um, well, like the since I got here, like talking to five different brains, right? Like I'm one of six on the strength conditioning staff, and then we don't see football too much. They're on the other side of things, just kind of like anywhere else. But um, like just talking to them, right? And then kind of being open and honest about like what you're not good at and like what you're comfortable asking about, right? Like with this staff, I kind of I love how like there's nothing like too elementary like not to ask if that makes sense, right? It's like, oh, like we don't ask like, oh, how do you squat? Like, no, like that's, but like, if, like we're programming questions, force play questions, like anything like that, we kind of bounce ideas off each other and just kind of talk about like is huge. Like the two things or the one big thing I was not good at was like or my warm up routine. I thought it was subpar. I thought it was awful. And we talked about it. I was like, okay, all right, I was right. This is bad. So we had like I brought and then we had the whole staff meeting about like warm up exercise selection, order of exercises for the warm up, going from low threshold to high threshold, actually getting them prepared like for what you're about to make them do, whether it's practice sprinting, just a lift, whatever. So that was one of the big things that helped me for that. And then the other thing is like I'm on the road now with baseball full time. I have a lot of downtime, so there's been a lot of rabbit holes I was able to go down on my own. So a lot of podcasts, a lot of YouTube, like presentations, stuff like that, like old CSCCA stuff. That's kind of or NSC, all of it. I just kind of
Yep.
found and looked up at it, and then I got a ton of books, ton of books. I went down a periodization rabbit hole recently, and I have like 18 books on my desk, and my shelf looks like it got vomited on. But
That's
it's just a
awesome
bunch
though.
of books. So I mean,
What's
like, but
sorry, go ahead.
I was like the biggest thing. That you can read as much as you want, and you can listen to as much as you want, but if you don't talk about it to like help you understand it and ingrain it with other people, like you'll still learn, but you won't learn it at as good of a rate as you have when other minds are around you, because like six minds are better than one. And I agree. I think that's the the most truest thing to the fullest extent.
Yeah, I was just talking with another strength coach about that the other day. It was like, okay, you read as an intern, you read triphasic,
Yep.
awesome, and then okay, now it's like,
Now
well,
what?
let me read the next book. You know, like let me go to the next one so that I can learn this other system. And it's like, no, you have to synthesize it. You have to
Yes.
actually run it yourself. You have to run it for athletes. You have to go read the book again after you've already done that so you can understand it better. There's a process with books. It's not just I've completed it. This knowledge is in my head, and now I'm a master of triphasic or whatever it is.
Yeah, the big one for me for that was Joe Kent's tier system.
Okay, there you
The
go.
3-2. Yeah, like okay, all right. It's I think the actual title is the Strength Coach's Playbook.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So it was like, all right, I read it. Total low upper. I know everything. I go over there. My first movement for the upper body day was a pull up. I did 3 sets of 2. I was like, man, that A block took 6 seconds. Like, what's going on here?
Exactly right.
Like 3x2. That's probably for 90%, right? But 90% of the pull up. Like, and I didn't have pull up maxes, and I had women's soccer, and everybody's still using bands and pushing each other up on the.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, it was a cluster. Oh man.
But that's why internships are so valuable too, right? Because where I interned at used the tier system. And so then, now I'm very familiar with the tier system, and I'll be 100%, I haven't even read the book, but I know I'm very, very familiar with the actual system because I've seen it operated at multiple different schools too. And so I've seen the spins and the twists that people have on it too with their own programming. But that's why the internship experience is so nice, is because that's where you get to actually execute those things and see exactly what each coach is doing. And that's why what I love what you said about meeting with each assistant coach too, is like, just because I'm an assistant coach now doesn't mean that I have all the knowledge and I can only teach the interns. Like I can teach the other strength coaches here, and there's a hell of a lot of stuff that they can teach me.
Yeah, like one of our, like we'll take turns doing intern presentations, right? So Anthony like kind of oversees the internship, so he'll do most of the, like we do one presentation a week, so he'll do most of the 16. But like I'll do one, Will do one, Maddie do one, Danny does one, right? So it's kind of take it off Anthony a little bit. So when Will did his one about plyometrics and he used the word JOP, I'm like, what's a JOP? And like and it's a jump to a hop. So I was like, oh, I was like, okay. And then he broke it down, and then he started like demoing it like in our intern meeting room. I was like, oh, okay. Will Grant's a little athletic.
Yeah. But seriously, those, I swear, when it's like those intern meetings when somebody else is running it, like you start to learn more stuff because they're more open about it. And it's like this stuff doesn't casually come up in conversation with us as assistant coaches. It really comes up a lot more when that person's in a teaching mindset, and so it makes a huge difference ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even when I did mine, like I just did basic speed development. Like I don't think anybody was out there like getting like their mind blown or anything like that. But, we had 2 full-timers sitting in there during my presentation to the interns. So
yeah, that's great. And seriously, it just shows that it's a staff who cares about each other and wants to see everybody else succeed and get better.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Michael, man, I really appreciate you, brother. It's been awesome to get to know you more and spend some time with you. If anybody wants to follow you on Instagram or kind of reach out if they have any questions, what would be the best way to do that?
What is my Instagram handle?
Mine's easy. It's Strength Coach Connor. That's the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah, my last post was in November of last year, so we'll deactive on it.
You've got some stories though too. I've seen your stories.
Yeah. My Instagram handle is Coach_Tucker13. 1 through 12 was taken. So, and then email it would be my Liberty one, mtucker54 at liberty.edu.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, seriously, Michael, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, no, it was. I'm happy to be here, and I had a good time.
Absolutely, me too. And I and looking forward to reaching out in a couple years and seeing how your relationship buds with the cats. We're gonna
Yeah,
find out some more.
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Mike.
All right, thank you.